Hey guys, these are our notes, so we're going to talk about other sampling methods. We talked about simple random sample yesterday, so today we'll talk about other ways to create a sample. We're going to have like some steps and stuff and some examples. So first off is we're trying to do random samples still because random is going to help lessen bias. So the first one we have is something called a cluster sample. This is where naturally occurring groups are randomly chosen for the sample. So say my population was all of my Math 3 students. One naturally occurring sample would be period 2, period 3, period 4, and period 5. And then I could randomly choose one of you guys to be my sample. So some steps would be, number 1, you just divide your population into clusters or groups. Step 2, you're going to go ahead and randomly select a cluster or number of clusters if you need more to fill. And then step 3, you could either use all of the objects from the cluster or randomly select one, as many as you need. All right, our next one is something called a systematic sample. So a systematic sample follows like a system. It's a sample drawn by selecting objects from a list. At a uniform interval. So say I wanted to randomly select some students in my class, I could get my roll sheet and maybe I select every third student on the list. Then that would be a systematic sample. So the way that you do it is you first determine your increment you're going to have between your items. In order to do this, you just do the total divided by the sample. And we're going to call that N. Then after you have your increment, you have to find your starting point. So you determine where to start. By randomly choosing a number between 1 and n. And step 3, you're going to go ahead and just begin with that first item. And then select every nth item until the sample is met. All right, our third one is our stratified sample. So for our stratified sample, if I was trying to select students for my classes and I selected 2 students from period 2, 2 students from period 3, 2 students from period 4, 2 students from period 5, I selected a certain amount from each student, or each student from each class, that would be a stratified sample. It's where your population is divided into subgroups. With shared characteristics. And the number chosen is proportional from each group. All right, so our steps, kind of our first step, the first thing you want to do is just divide your population into the strata or the groups. Then you're going to go ahead and make a table. Representing the strata. With the number in each group. Groups. Then step 3, you're going to go ahead and determine how many you need from each group. This is your proportional. Couldn't fit it. Proportional. And then the last step is just to randomly choose that many from each strata. And our last one is the easiest yet most unreliable, and that one's called a convenient sample. You just simply choose whoever's most near you. You try to minimize your time, effort, and expense. So, like I said, easiest one to do, least reliable. You just go ahead and choose items. You still try to do it randomly. You just randomly choose items that are easiest to locate. So again, this is not usually reliable. And is prone to bias. So again, if I was trying to randomly select 10 students from my classes, so the cluster sample would be, okay, well, I'm trying to randomly select 10 students, so I go ahead and I randomly pick period 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then I have more than 10 students in those classes, so then I randomly select 10 students from that class using a random number generator, wherever it might be. If I was to do a systematic sample, I would randomly select maybe, one of my periods, and then using like a random number generator or whatever, and then I would go through or I would list out all of my students in all of my classes, and then I would figure out how many students I have divided by 10, so then I'm going to go by 15. So then I select a random number generator for my 15 students, I pick them, and then I just randomly select every 15th student from that first person. Stratified sample, I'd put them into subgroups by shared characteristics. So it could be periods, so period 2, 3, 4, and 5 are my math 3 classes. And then I would just randomly select, however many from each group. So if I needed 10 people, I would select 2 people from each group, and that would only give me 8. And then the 2 biggest classes would get the extra 2 spots. Convenient sample, just whatever class I'm teaching that period, I just randomly select 10 people from that class. Easy as that. 10 people closest near me. All right, so let's do some examples. So this is in our workbook. This is on page 75. It says, the following table lists 30 movies that earned the most money in the United States theaters in 2012. Use the table to obtain a systematic sample of 10 movies. We want systematic sample. So the way that you make a systematic sample is first, you have to find your increment. Then you decide where you're going to start. Then you just choose that every nth movie until you have all of them. Okay, so here's all of our movies. So on the back side, page 76, it tells us to do this. First, determine the increment between movies. All right, well, there are 30 movies total. So it's the total divided by the sample. So there's 30 movies total, and we want to get 10 of them. So 10 divided by 30 is 3. So we're going to do every third movie. All right, then we have to decide where we're going to start. So determine where we're going to start. So you're going to randomly choose a number between 1 and 3. Okay, so I'm going to grab my number generator. It's on my computer, 1 to 3. I generated 2. Start. So I'm going to go back, and then I'm just going to go ahead and begin with the first movie selected, and then I'm going to select every third movie after that. So I'm going to start with number 2 and then select every third movie. So I'm just going to write, I'm not going to write all the movies down just for sake of time. We're just going to write selected movies are circled. So we don't have to write them all down right here. All right, so I'm going to go back to page 75. Okay, my first movie is number 2. And then I'm going to pick every third movie after that. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Until I have 10 movies. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my first one was number 2. That's where I started. And then I did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, circle, 1, 2, 3, circle, and so on until I got all 10 movies. So I should have 10 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Dark Knight, Hobbit, Brave, Dr. Seuss, Lorax, Men in Black 3, Snow White and the Huntsman, Taken 2, Silver Linings Playbook, The Vow, and The Bourne Legacy. So that's how a systematic sample works. You first find your increment, decide where to start, and then choose every nth movie after that. All right, now let's go to example number 2. We're only going to do method 1, so you can cross off method 2, but it says, Pierce wants to conduct a survey of shoppers at the local mall. He obtains a list of the major stores, restaurants, and other establishments and creates the following table that includes each destination's name, their location or zone, category, and category rank. The category rank represents where the mall destination falls in the list of all the establishments in the same category. For example, Aeropostale is second in the list of clothing stores, so its category rank is number 2. Use the table and 2 methods to choose a cluster sample of 5 establishments. We're just going to do 1. To determine a cluster sample of 5 establishments at which Pierce can interview shoppers. For this time, we are doing a cluster sample. Method 1 is one we're going to do. It says just give each zone an equal chance. So we have zones, right? So the zone is like where, I guess, in the mall that it is located. So there are 5 zones. Okay, so we're doing a cluster sample. The way that a cluster sample works is you have groups. So our zones are going to be our groups. So we're just going to divide our population into groups. It already is divided into the basically on our little thing. Then we're going to randomly select a cluster or number of clusters, and then if there's too many, then we can just randomly select however many we need from there. Okay. All right, so first, okay, we're doing our zones. So I'm just gonna identify my zones. So A, I'm gonna give the number 1. B, I'm gonna give the number 2. C, number 3. D, number 4. And then E, number 5. So there's 5 zones, all the way to A, B, C, D, E. All right, now I'm gonna randomly select a zone. I'm just gonna, randomly use my random number generator. So 1 through 5, randomly select, generate a number. I got zone 4. So you just randomly select. We get zone 4, zone D, because I got the number 4. And then what you would do is you would go ahead and you would number all of your zone Ds. Okay, so I'm going to go to all of mine that are zone D. I'm just going to start numbering them. And then if there's more than 5, well, if there's only 5, we'll use all of them. But if there's more than 5, we'll have to randomly select one. All right, so zone D. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and there's more. We have 10, 11, hopefully I don't skip any, 12, 13, 14, there's more, 15, 16. All right, there's 16 in zone D. So we only need 5. So what we're going to have to do is randomly select them. I have my random number generator here. I put the minimum 1, maximum 16. I'm going to randomly select them, and then we'll just circle the ones that are, so randomly select zone D, then we numbered the stores, and then we just randomly select 5. They're circled. All right, so my random number generator from 1 to 16. My first one is number 12. So my first store is Lane Bryant. Randomly select another one. I get 8. Eddie Bauer. 10. Gap. 5. The Body Shop. 14, Olympia Sports. Was that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have all 5 of our stores. So the cluster sample, we put them into clusters. Those were our zones. We randomly selected a zone. There was too many stores. There were 16. We only needed 5. So we just randomly selected 5 using our random number generator. Okay. All right. Last example, number 3. Number 3 says Kylie wants to estimate the total number of times customers enter different establishments at the same mall described in example 2. So all those other stores we had. Kylie has 10 electronic devices that can count the number of customers entering a given establishment. Use the tables provided in example 2 to select a stratified sample by category of 10. Okay, so this time we're doing stratified. Stratified, if we go back there, all the way back, stratified means basically proportional. Like each kind of group, whatever your strata is, your group, each group gets to be represented. The bigger groups get more representation, basically. Okay, so here she wants her to be, use the tables provided in example 2 to select stratified sample by category. So the categories are these right here. I already have like my categories written down with how many kind of are in each of the categories. So we're going to have 8 total strata. So there are clothing stores. There are 22. For food, there are 16. For bath and beauty, they have 9. Services has 7. Accessories has 6. Tech has 5. Toys has 5. And jewelry also has 5. Okay, so it says that she has 10 electronic devices. There's 8 strata. So what we want to do is we want to give 1 to each of them, and then we want to randomly select 1 jewelry, 1 toys, 1 tech, 1 accessories, 1 services, 1 bath and beauty, but then we'll have 2 left over. So we're going to do 2 for the clothing, pick 2 clothing stores and 2 food stores. So the way that strata works is you're going to randomly select within each of your groups. And then the ones like that you have left over, you do them proportional, so the bigger groups get more representation. So I'm not actually going to do this one. We're just going to kind of write down how to do it. But you're going to randomly select one store from each category. The jewelry, toys, tech, accessories, services, bath and beauty, and randomly select 2 from clothing and food. Since those ones are the bigger, has the more stores, the bigger sample population of stores, then you would select more from there. So they're labeled like the 16 all the way down. These ones are actually labeled, but for like jewelry, this is the 3rd one in jewelry, but we're not going to actually do it for right now. Okay. All right. That's it for our notes. And then your practice is on page, I don't know, 85 it looks like. And that's it.